Hi, welcome to another video. So, MiniMax M2.1 now natively supports OpenClaw with a really simple OAuth setup. And if you don't know what OpenClaw is, you're about to find out why this combination is actually really interesting. This is basically a way to get an AI agent that actually does stuff for you, powered by one of the most cost-effective open source models out there. Now, let me explain what's going on here. OpenClaw is that open source AI agent that went viral earlier this year. You might know it from its previous names, Claudebot and then Multibot. It's essentially a personal AI assistant that can run tasks for you through messaging apps like WhatsApp, Telegram, Slack, Discord, and a bunch of others. And it also has a built-in web interface, which is what we're going to focus on today. When I say tasks, I mean real tasks. It can clear your inbox, send emails, manage your calendar, check you in for flights, book travel, debug code, and even deploy updates. The tagline is literally, the AI that actually does things, which is pretty accurate to be honest. The cool part is that it's model-agnostic. You can bring your own API keys and use whatever model you want. Claude, GPT, Gemini, local models, whatever. But here's the thing. MiniMax M2.1 has now become a really popular choice for OpenClaw users, and there's a good reason for that. MiniMax M2.1, made by MiniMax, is a 230 billion parameter mixture of experts model. But it only activates 10 billion parameters per request, which makes it extremely efficient. It was released in December 2025, and it's completely open source under the MIT license, which means you can use it for whatever you want, commercial or otherwise. Now, what makes MiniMax M2.1 particularly good for agents is its interleaved thinking capability. This is where the model generates reasoning blocks before making tool calls, which improves multi-step problem solving and gives you transparency into what the model is actually thinking. For something like OpenClaw that needs to handle multiple tasks and tool calls, this is exactly what you want. It's also been optimized specifically for agentic workloads. MiniMax built it for robustness in coding, tool use, instruction following, and long horizon planning. It works natively with agent frameworks like Claude Code, Klein, Roo Code, and others. So it's not just a chat model, it's designed to be an agent brain from the ground up. The benchmarks are also really solid. On SWE-bench Verified, which tests real-world software engineering, MiniMax M2.1 scores 74%. On multi-SWE-bench, it hits 49.4% compared to Claude Sonnet 4.5's 44.3%. And on SWE-bench Multilingual, it scores 72.5% versus Claude's 68%. So it's actually beating some of the best closed-source models on coding tasks. For an agent that needs to handle a variety of technical tasks, that matters a lot. So, let's talk about how you actually set this up, because that's the big news here. OpenClaw now natively supports MiniMax M2.1 with OAuth, which means the setup is way simpler than it used to be. No more copying API keys around. You just log in and you're done. First, open your terminal and install OpenClaw. You can run the one-liner install command. Just run curl-ffsslhttps://openclaw.ai/install.sh pipe bash. This installs node.js and everything else you need automatically. It works on macOS, Linux, and Windows through WSL2. Alternatively, if you already have node.js, you can just run npm install-g OpenClaw at latest. The -G makes it a global install. Once that's done, Run the onboarding wizard by typing OpenClaw onboard --install -daemon. The --install -daemon flag is important because it sets up OpenClaw as a background service, so it keeps running even after you close your terminal. When the wizard starts, choose Quick Start. This uses sensible defaults and walks you through the minimal configuration needed. In the Model and Auth Provider step, you'll see a bunch of options including Anthropic, OpenAI, Google, and others. Select MiniMax. Now here's where the OAuth magic happens. Instead of having to go to some dashboard, create an API key and paste it in, OpenClaw will open a browser window for you. Just sign into your MiniMax account or create one if you don't have one. Then click Authorize. That's it. You can go back to the terminal and everything is configured. No API keys to manage, no credentials to copy and paste, which is pretty great. If you prefer using an API key instead of OAuth, you can do that too. Just set the MiniMax API key environment variable or configure it in the Models Provider's MiniMax section of your config. But honestly, the OAuth flow is so much easier. Now, for the web interface. This is where it gets really cool because you don't need to set up Telegram or WhatsApp or any messaging app to start using OpenClaw. Once your gateway is running, just type OpenClaw dashboard in your terminal. This will open your browser to the OpenClaw web interface, which runs at localhost port 18,789 by default. It opens with a tokenized URL for security. The web interface is basically a chat window where you can talk to your AI agent directly. You can give it tasks, ask it questions, and it has access to all the same tools and capabilities as it would through any messaging channel. So you can start chatting with MiniMax M2.1 powered OpenClaw right from your browser without setting up any messaging platform at all. The pricing is also incredibly competitive. MiniMax M2.1 API costs about 27 cents per million input tokens and $1.12 per million output tokens. Compare that to something like Claude Sonnet 4.5 or GPT 5.2, and you're looking at roughly 10% of the cost for similar performance. And for agent workloads that can rack up a lot of tokens really quickly, this adds up fast. The savings are massive. Now, why is MiniMax M2.1 becoming a go-to model for OpenClaw users? A few reasons. First, the interleaved thinking is basically built for agent use cases. When OpenClaw needs to reason through a complex task, having transparent step-by-step reasoning before each tool call means fewer mistakes and better results. Second, the model benchmarks really well on coding and agentic tasks. On the Vibe benchmark, which tests full-stack app development, MiniMax M2.1 scores 88.6 on average, with 91.5 on web tasks. For an agent that needs to write code, navigate websites, and interact with apps, that's a huge deal. Third, it's open source, so you can run it locally if you want full privacy, or use the API if you want convenience. OpenClaw is built to be privacy-focused and model-agnostic, so having a strong open source option that works natively with OAuth is exactly what a lot of users wanted. There are some things to keep in mind though. OpenClaw, by its nature, has access to a lot of stuff on your system. The documentation recommends not installing it on your personal device with sensitive data. Instead, use a VPS, a VM, or a dedicated machine. The recommended security steps are to run OpenClaw security audit -- deep regularly, enforce least privilege and isolation, and avoid running the agent as an administrator. They also recommend running it inside a container or WSL2 environment for containment. If you want to check that everything is working correctly, you can run OpenClaw Doctor. This performs automated health checks and tells you if anything needs fixing. And if something does go wrong, running OpenClaw Doctor -- fix will try to repair it automatically. If you're comfortable with those security considerations and set things up properly, this is a really powerful combination. MiniMax M2.1 gives you frontier-level capabilities at a fraction of the cost, and OpenClaw gives you a way to actually put those capabilities to work on real tasks, all through a simple web interface. I think this is a good example of what the AI agent ecosystem is becoming. We have open source models that can genuinely compete with the best closed source options, and we have open source agent frameworks that can use them with dead simple OAuth setup. The fact that you can open a browser tab, chat with your AI assistant, and have it do actual work for you, powered by a 230 billion parameter model that's completely open source, is pretty wild when you think about it. Overall, it's pretty cool. Anyway, share your thoughts below and subscribe to the channel. You can also donate via Super Thanks option or join the channel as well and get some perks. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.